Hello and welcome. I am Zane, a relationship consultant and psychologist, and today we're diving deep into a subject that's both powerful and essential. Recognizing what happens when a manipulator realizes you see through them. Manipulators are skilled architects of deception. They don't just lie, they craft illusions. Carefully, they paint themselves as the victim, the savior, or the misunderstood genius. And often, people fall for it until one day, someone like you begins to see the truth. That's the moment the power dynamic shifts. Because when a manipulator realizes you're no longer dancing to their tune, they don't retreat. Instead, they adapt. They morph. They evolve their tactics in real time to maintain control. But that's also the moment when you have the upper hand, if you know what to look for. So today, I'll guide you through 9 psychological responses you might witness when a manipulator knows their mask has cracked. Let's dive in. 1. They change their tactics. A master manipulator is like a chameleon changing colors to blend into whatever environment benefits them most. When you begin to resist their usual tricks, when guilt, shame, or subtle pressure stops working, they don't give up. They simply switch strategies. They might have once used passive-aggressive comments or emotional outbursts to control you. Now they may suddenly become flattering, kind, or unusually agreeable. This abrupt shift isn't a sign of growth, it's a calculated move. This sudden change is designed to throw you off balance. It's meant to make you question whether they were ever manipulative in the first place. That's the trick. If they can confuse you just enough, they regain the upper hand. But once you recognize this behavioral pivot for what it is, a manipulation reboot will see through it every time. Stay rooted. Trust the pattern, not the performance. 2. They try to discredit you. When manipulators realize you've exposed them, they go into reputation defense mode, not by improving themselves, but by tearing you down. Instead of facing the truth, they attack the source of the truth. You. You might notice them talking behind your back, spreading subtle rumors, or painting you as unstable, over-emotional, or too sensitive. It's not about accuracy, it's about control. By discrediting your voice, they aim to weaken your influence and isolate you from potential allies. They may do it with a smile, or under the guise of concern. I just worry about them. They've been acting a little off lately, but make no mistake, it's strategic. This tactic is deeply psychological. They can plant seeds of doubt in others. Your warnings about them will fall on deaf ears. But don't let this discourage you. Often their smear campaign backfires because truth has a funny way of finding its way to the surface. 3. They play the victim. Few tactics are as emotionally disarming as victimhood. When a manipulator senses their control slipping, they might retreat into a role that demands sympathy. Suddenly, they're the one who's been wronged. You're misunderstood, misjudged, and mistreated, and you're cast as the aggressor. It's a psychological flip of the narrative. Instead of being held accountable for their behavior, they use emotional storytelling to trigger your guilt. This is often when you'll hear phrases like, "I guess I just can't do anything right," or "everyone always leaves me in the end." It's a subtle but powerful way to recenter the conversation on their feelings, not their actions. The goal is to make you second-guess your boundaries and feel remorse for holding them accountable. Remember, true victims don't weaponize their pain. If someone repeatedly uses suffering as a shield for bad behavior, it's not vulnerability, it's manipulation. Before they gaslight you. Gaslighting is perhaps the most insidious form of psychological manipulation. When a manipulator gaslights you, they're not just lying there attempting to rewrite your reality. They'll insist things didn't happen the way you remember. They'll question your emotions, minimize your experiences, and even accuse you of being dramatic, paranoid, or unstable. The end goal is simple: to make you doubt yourself so deeply that you become dependent on their version of truth. This tactic doesn't happen overnight. It builds over time in subtle comments and strategic denials. You might find yourself thinking, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I did misremember. But here's your anchor. Patterns don't lie. Your intuition. When consistently raising red flags is telling you something vital, don't ignore it. Gaslighting loses power the moment you validate your own reality over their fiction. 5. They ramp up the charm. Charm is a manipulator's secret weapon. It's the velvet glove over the iron fist. When they sense that their control is fading, they may suddenly become more affectionate, attentive, or generous than ever before. Compliments come rolling in. They do things just because. They become the person you wanted them to be all along, and that's the trap. This isn't love. It's strategy. You're testing your emotional defenses, hoping the sweetness will erode your resolve. It works temporarily because we all crave kindness and connection. But when charm follows conflict too quickly, it's not affection. It's manipulation repackaged. True character isn't measured in grand gestures, it's proven in consistency. So if someone becomes a saint only when they're about to be exposed, it's not growth, it's survival. 6. They use emotional blackmail. When all else fails, manipulators reach for the emotional nuclear option: blackmail. This is when the stakes are suddenly life-altering, devastating, or morally unbearable. They might threaten to hurt themselves, end the relationship, or expose something personal if you don't comply. They'll use phrases like, "If you really loved me, you'd do this," or "I can't live without you." The goal is to trap you in fear, guilt, or obligation. It's terrifying because it plays directly on your heart. You care, and they know it. But here's a vital truth. You are not responsible for how someone else chooses to handle their emotions. Compassion does not mean compliance. If someone uses your empathy as leverage, it's no longer a relationship, it's a hostage situation. In moments like these, seek support. Don't navigate emotional blackmail alone. 7. They isolate you from your support system. One of the most dangerous manipulative tactics is subtle, strategic isolation. A master manipulator knows that their power weakens in the presence of outside perspective. So they'll slowly begin to distance you from your support system. Maybe they criticize your family, or sow doubt about your friends, or start planning things when others can't join. It's not overt, it's subtle. But over time, you begin to notice you're more alone than you used to be. That's not an accident. Isolation is how manipulators strengthen their influence. With fewer outside voices, their voice becomes dominant. Their reality becomes your only reference point. If you notice someone regularly undermining your other relationships, pay attention. Healthy love doesn't demand isolation. It encourages connection. Anyone who tries to shrink your world is doing so to better control it. Right. They make you feel guilty. Manipulators are guilt magicians. They know exactly how to twist a narrative to make you feel like the villain even when you're simply protecting yourself. They'll remind you of everything they've done for you, suggest you're being ungrateful, or question your loyalty. Suddenly, setting boundaries feels like betrayal. That's the trap, turning your self-respect into a weapon against you. This tactic is particularly effective on empathetic people. If you're someone who cares deeply, guilt hits harder. But guilt should never be the currency of love or respect. If someone regularly makes you feel like the bad guy for standing up for yourself, that's not emotional honesty, it's emotional manipulation. You are allowed to say no. You're allowed to choose peace over pressure. 9. They deny their manipulation. And finally, the most predictable and frustrating response: complete and utter denial. When cornered, manipulators will look you straight in the eye and claim innocence. "I would never do that. You're imagining things. You're too sensitive." These denials are not about truth, they're about control. If they can make you doubt your experience, they win. But denial is often the final move in their playbook. When a manipulator starts denying what you clearly experienced, it means they've lost the ability to shift or distract. That's your cue. Don't argue with someone who's committed to misunderstanding you. Just hold your ground, speak your truth, and remove your energy from their illusion. Being on the receiving end of manipulation can feel like you're trapped in a web of confusion and self-doubt. But the truth is, once you start seeing the patterns, you're no longer a victim, you're a survivor. And not just surviving, but growing wiser and stronger. As Zane, a psychologist and relationship consultant, I've worked with countless individuals who've navigated toxic manipulation. The key difference between staying stuck and breaking free: awareness gives you clarity, and that clarity gives you power. Manipulators thrive in the shadows of doubt, but now that you're shining a light on their tactics, they've lost their greatest weapon. And if this video helped you take one step closer to your truth, I encourage you to subscribe to STR TV. On this channel, we don't just talk about relationships, we empower you to build ones rooted in honesty, confidence, and emotional intelligence.